Normally it rises.
Hey, it's ODB, the Lincoln Addict, back with another video. If you are a return viewer, thank you. If you're new, please consider subscribing. This 64 Lincoln Continental Convertible listing review that I'm going to go through now is along the same lines of what I've been doing, but you just have to see this eBay listing and see some of the points that I'm talking about to reinforce the importance of your listing if you're looking to sell a car, or the importance of the listing from the buyer standpoint. You know, what is it about said car that, you know, is going to maybe draw you in to say, hey, here's my money, I want to buy it. Now, if I hit escape here and I jump over to the eBay listing, what I want you to see is this car is listed. I think it's been out there. It's probably like on the month, you know, you can list it for a certain set period of time. And it's listed at $139,000. Now, what I want to do is go through the presentation first, and I think you guys will appreciate this one. There's some other tie-in stuff that I'm going to tie into this review, but what I want you to see is these are the only photos. There's like 6 photos or something like that, and as you can see, it is a custom Lincoln. It's got custom wheels. The peak molding, are non-existent there. It does appear that those and other trim have been removed, and we'll talk a little bit about that. If you're new to the channel, again, thank you. If you're new, thanks for viewing. Consider subscribing. If you're a return viewer, thank you very much. So you've seen this before. This is my spreadsheet, my little method to my madness. 64 Lincoln Continental Convertible here in the green color. 3328 was the production, and about 6,900, just about $7,000 total back in the day. That equates to roughly $60,000 to $70,000 in today's money. Now, I did just pull this screenshot, so it's what we've kind of seen here the last month or so. Not really a change, but you can get an idea for what these cars are at least worth in Hagerty's valuation tool. Now, granted, we've seen these cars sell at $85,000, 100 plus thousand. This is just kind of an overall guide. Certainly some cars are nicer than others, but this is where Hagerty puts the prices at. Now, as I recently started doing the Lincoln Registry, I did give them a shout out. You can just Google or go to thelincolnregistry.com. It's a database of VIN numbers, and this one was registered by the Lincoln Registry. They kind of keep their ear to the streets, so to speak, and if they see these listings on Bring a Trailer or eBay or presumably even Facebook Marketplace, they've done a good job of then copying that VIN and entering it in, and it's just kind of a way to keep track of these cars, how many exist, and things like that. If you're a number person, or you appreciate the heritage of it, that's something that's good to always check, or submit one if you own a Lincoln. Okay, the VIN number there, the 4Y86N. If I click and go escape and go back here, what I want to show you is not only does this only have a couple of photos, which we're going to talk about, this is the only description of this car. It's literally 3, 4, 5 sentences with not a lot of information. But the one thing that we can glean from it is the VIN number. Now, you guys know I like to break down these VINs, and unfortunately, we do not have a photo of the door plate itself. So basically, we know this to be, this appears to be a convertible. It's definitely not a sedan converted, as far as I can tell, to a convertible. So it would be the body type 74A, which is the 4-door convertible. Unfortunately, all this other information is unknown. We can presumably, guess the trans, the axle, and things like that, the engine and whatnot. But we can, from the VIN number itself, break down. You guys have heard me go over several times that first sentence. But really, when you get down to it, this is 1,718. So that VIN, let's see here. What did I do wrong here? 34757. Let me make sure I put the right one in here. I could have messed up here, so 43. So yeah, I think I forgot to update this, and that's my apologies. So if we go off this number here, that is the 34,757 built. So I think what I forgot to do is update one of these numbers down here, so that kind of threw me off. But bottom line is, it's the 34,000th built of that production out of. If you add all these together, you'd have to add the 64. So, the total of these. So kind of towards the end of the production run. So that gives us a little bit of insight there. Now, let's get to the fun part. The thing that I will tell you, and I've said this disclaimer in the past, I am not in any way taking any shots at builders or anything like that. These videos are for entertainment, number one. But number two, folks have commented and they've said, hey, I've learned some things. I've learned a bunch of things. You guys have helped me as well. So I want to break down this build. This car was built by Rich Evan Designs, also known as Huntington Beach Body Works. Now, Rich, I've tagged him on Instagram in the past. We've exchanged, pleasantries in terms of comments back and forth here and there. But I did some checking to kind of pull this information together to give you the backstory on, is this car worth $140,000, or at least is it presented? Would you feel comfortable buying it? So we could see Rich here sitting in the 65. We know it's this car, or 64, I'm sorry. We know it's this car because the custom steering wheel in it. It was on the TV show or the pilot for Autoholics, so that may be out there on YouTube. But these are about the only images I could find. This is Rich here. And when you look back at his Instagram, Rich Evans Designs, you can check this out. But basically, this is from January 2013 and April of 2016, so about 3 years apart. This car has been on the circuit, the show circuit for about 15 years, possibly built even before that. Kind of seems like a mid-2000s, late 2000s builds in terms of some of the styling that we were seeing at that time with these higher end builds, I guess, or SEMA builds, I'll say. Now you can see here, Rich is sitting next to the car. You've got, you can see the custom wheels are highly polished here. And then here's a kind of an artsy photo that was posted. Now here's a few photos of it. And again, if you Google Rich Evans Designs, 1964 Lincoln Continental, some of these images are going to pop up. You can see the crane here on some of the filming they were doing. And then you can see also the car here. Now, the reason why I'm going through this is, again, there's not a lot on eBay, so I want for you guys to get a little bit of the backstory. Now, this car went to SEMA 2010. These photos are from my friend Brian Frost at SoCal Customs. He, for 20 years, extensively shot a lot of different car shows, including SEMA each year. We can see here Rich Evans Designs. This is something that builders would often do in different capacities, with some of the stickers and whatnot on the car, right? We can see the 64 front end here. This is kind of the blacked out build, if you will. Certainly the bumper is still chrome. We can see the billet wheels on it, which again kind of go along with the styling that Rich would build with, some of the machining on these wheels. We can see it has custom interior. And here's a good photo that Brian took. You see the custom seat belts. It's got custom stereo, aftermarket custom steering wheel, pedals. It's got according to the eBay listing, it has the Dakota digital gauges. Although I wasn't sure that they were making those then. I don't know if they were maybe stock at this point and they've been changed, but Dakota Digital certainly makes those. We can see the sills here are very nice. Again, this piece here laid down with the custom interior. Kind of a lot going on. And then you've got that, I'll kind of call it the famous Rich Evans Designs logo, kind of a tribal type thing that you would see a lot in different builds then. Not so much on Lincolns, but again, this was his style, if you will. Here is the front passenger 3/4 shot with the rear suicide door open, and you can see some of the sponsors and whatnot here in one of the halls at the SEMA show every November. Also, one thing that I'm going to point out here is one of my favorite features of these cars is having that stainless trim go behind the seats. That was pretty much the same from 61 all the way to 66. In 67, the seats do change with some of the safety measures that were brought in, right, by, I think, the National Highway Safety Transportation Board, all that stuff. So if you follow cars, kind of the mid to late 60s, you start to have more safety stuff come in. But bottom line is, I'm a huge fan of the way these seats look factory. Of course, the material change would have been fine, but that's one thing I noticed, that it looks like they just covered over or they removed that. But certainly that's kind of an iconic thing, in my opinion, about these cars with the interior. We could see some behind-the-scenes build pics. Again, there's not a lot out there, but certainly if you search the net, what this does show us is the engine was pulled, so the engine and trans were pulled together. The car is up on jack stands here. They're having some sort of little meeting, and you can see this is a Rich Evans Designs Ford F-150. We see his poster up here, some of the kind of his logo that's also tied into this 64. So let's talk about the pros of this listing. That one bullet point, okay? The only pro that I really have with this, I don't know who owns this car, if Rich still owns it or if it was a client build or what, but if you look at these few photos, that's all they give. And I really struggled to find any pro or positive or thumbs up in terms of this listing. Now, again, I'm not saying this car is not a good build. It's certainly going to take a unique buyer, right? Maybe someone that wants a custom Lincoln, but certainly we need more photos. That's bottom line. You guys know I love bringing a trailer because they typically either require or they ask their clients, please provide us with more photos. We need X amount. What we can see here, again, this car was kind of de-trimmed as far as I can tell. We know the iconic, trim that comes on 64, 65, and a lot of that is gone, including what appears to be the peak moldings are gone, which again is a mod that you don't typically see. We can also see that it has the billet antenna here, and we can see looking up here that that this is a convertible car. Sometimes at first glance you might say, hey, is it a sedan that's been cut? By all means, this one, as far as I can tell, and based upon the description, it certainly is not. But this is a 64 Lincoln Continental, and you can see here, this is an older photo. I don't know if Wes Allison shot this photo. He shot some iconic stuff here at this location in the past, but certainly we need more photos. At $139,000, we need something. Now, the description, again, I want to show you this real quick. It just says 64 Lincoln Continental Convertible, suicide doors, which they all had, airbags, so it does have an adjustable suspension, digital gauges, which, my apologies, I thought it said decoded digital, but it is digital gauges apparently. Here's the kicker: more photos and video coming soon. That's not, in my opinion, that's not the way to start a listing. You need to have everything up front. It says the car is in good condition but not mint. What are we talking about here? There's really not a lot. It does say the convertible top folds up manually, not electronically. We need to know more information. These were not electronic from the get-go, right? They were based upon fluid. So we need to know what's kind of going on. Did they just remove that for a, quote, TV car build? We have to see. There are companies, they say, that can help get the top working electronically. Mileage is TBD, more details to come. There's also only one item sold. Now, I will tell you, I've been an eBay user for 23, 24 years. And certainly back in the day, it was always a red flag if someone just had one, or in this case, 0 reviews, but apparently one sale in the past, one item sold. That sometimes is a red flag as well. Is this a scam? Certainly eBay would obviously be the ones to handle that. They've dealt with their own scandals. If you haven't heard of those, look those up. But certainly I wouldn't say, hey, don't buy something from someone that has 0 feedback, but I would at least, take a look at that a little bit further. Now let's get into not the pros, but the concerns, I'm going to call it on this one. The concerns of the listing. There's a lack of detailed photos. I've established that. There's nothing highlighting the custom work on the Lincoln, right? We can see the front 3/4 shot. Obviously I showed you some stuff that I found spending 30, 45 minutes on the internet. I knew Rich Evans had built this, so it helped a little bit in doing the Google search. But certainly, if you've got a custom car or a car that you're trying to sell, I think we all know this, the more photos, the better. The top is not functioning. If the top worked, I think all of you guys know, it would be an immediate value add. When the top doesn't work and you don't know why, and you're saying, hey, it was originally mechanical with, fluid and cylinders, and oh, by the way, look into a company that can maybe get it working electronically, that's not giving you the confidence. Depending on where you live, you have to be able to put the top up. Sure, California doesn't typically experience rain. That's where this car apparently is at. They just had some really bad weather. I hope everyone's okay out there. But at the end of the day, having a car like this, that's some sort of a level of a resto mod without the top working is not a good thing. There's no undercarriage photos or pics in the trunk. Again, if the top can be opened manually, we should have photos in the trunk. Show us what we're getting for $139,000 or best offer. The description of the car, as you saw, is non-existent. The pics and video, they say, are TBD. In my opinion, that's no way to start a listing. You're going to have people immediately, hey, can you send me this? Can you send me that? Sending Google Drive links, doing this, doing that. Listen, if you're going to put something on eBay, be ready to rock and roll. Have your stuff out there, okay? This is telling me that either the person has no idea what they're doing or they just aren't concerned with selling this car. The builder is not mentioned. Had the builder been mentioned, someone could have done an internet search just like I did. So I'm going to show you this. I obviously knew this car from social media. I've been to SEMA before as well. And again, I've tagged Rich in the past. You can barely see his logo right here, and you really can't make it out, especially with the tribal. And that's kind of it. I knew the car because of the wheels and because of this past, following Lincolns for all these years. But certainly the builder should be mentioned. I mean, if someone owns this car and they can't look at the floor mats or tell or have some sort of lineage of the history of this car, it kind of scares me a little bit. The asking price is $139,000 or best offer. To me, that's way too high for lack of details and a lack of information, in my opinion. Now, again, you could argue and say, hey, you're being harsh on this seller. They have zero feedback. They have one sale, okay? That's not giving me the confidence that this is legit, okay? It appears to be a bag over leaf in the back, okay? This is not a current setup that a lot of people would run, okay? There's a couple of companies that make these airbag kits. Now, granted, Rich Evans and teams, they say, they're very clear on their posts, if you can find any, this car was built in 8 days, okay? That's a TV build. That's fine, okay? I'm okay with that. But here's the thing I would say. If you look right here, you can see the leaf spring. And back in the day, guys would bag these on the factory control arms, which I have nothing against. They would also bag these with an airbag over the leaf spring. You can get away with it, but it's not an ideal situation. If someone were to buy this car, my opinion would be go ahead and get a modern kit. Get a Ride Tech, maybe front setup. Devious Customs is a sponsor of Lincoln Addict podcast. Chopping blocks out there. There's a couple of different, even other up-and-coming guys that you'd want to throw a kit on there. Now, you could argue, hey, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Sure, I get it. But again, a bag over leaf spring is kind of an old school thing, and you just don't really see that too often. The car, I quote this, the car is in good condition but not mint, end quote. That's not a good description, as we may need, or as we all know, that, we need to know what is not mint. Okay, what needs to be finished? What needs to be repaired? What needs to be fixed? I mean, I just don't get the warm and fuzzy on this car. Now, again, I'm not taking any shots at, I think this gentleman, Rich Evans, had built some very, very cool stuff. I don't know if he's still kind of out there building or what he's doing. He's got a few things you can find out there, but right here, 1964 Lincoln Continental built in 8 days with my team for the new TV pilot called Autoholics. Again, that was in January 2023. Now, we know that this went to SEMA 2010, so hypothetically, the show could have been, production in 2009. they would have had to film the show before the car was finished, right? So we know if the car was at SEMA 2010, it was probably like a 2008 or 2009, maybe a 2010 production. So this car, this build is, kind of 15 years old, but it certainly has some things that are cool about it. But it also has some things that just kind of make you scratch your head and go, okay, if the top doesn't work, put a little bit of money into it, in my opinion. Get the top working. Show some videos. Do the windows work? I guess the windows, I know this is probably sounds kind of crazy. I'm assuming the windows are still in it. It looks like the window is there. So, hypothetically, the window's still there. But, in all seriousness, we see a couple shots that go, oh, cool. I'd love to drive this car. But when you take a deeper look and you go, okay, what does the engine bay look like? What does the inside of the trunk look like? Where's the driving video? Does it start right up? Does it run good? Does the top work? We know the top doesn't work. Do the auto drops work in the back? There's just so many different things. And really, again, with this post, I almost feel like it bleeds, is it a potential scam? If the seller happens to see this, again, I'm not taking shots at this said person. I just really feel like someone needs to take the time so that if I was looking to spend and I had the money and I was like, hey, I'm going to drop $139,000 and I'm going to have to pay the taxes potentially where you live and I'm going to have to ship this, I'm going to have $150,000+. I better be getting a car, in my opinion, that I could put the top up, I could put the windows up, that's going to start, it's going to drive, it's going to do all those things. And this just isn't the description. I kind of skipped over all this because there's nothing here to tell. It says it's a black convertible with X amount of miles and whatnot. Let me know what you guys think. I could go on and on, but certainly I respect this guy, Rich Evans. I think he built a cool car. But whoever's selling this car, whether it's him or someone else, just needs to put a little bit more time and effort in. Bring a Trailer, I think, is so popular because they probably help handheld a little bit and kind of curate and ensure that they don't have something that kind of goes out the door, so to speak, that doesn't have enough information. So that was something from an older presentation. And then here's the other thing I wanted to show you. This was a few other things. There was a few details. There was a Wheels and Waves website that had kind of talked about Rich Evans being on some TV shows. There was a promo thing for Ben Pack. You can see, again, he did build some cool things. You got a poster up here as well. Here's another photo I found of him in the 60 or in front of the 64. You can see the wheel again looking nice and polished. You see his tattoo here that kind of ties into his whole logo and some of the stuff we saw in the car. This was like a press release type thing for Autoholics. And again, you can see some of the behind the scenes. And then here's a photo of him. Very talented guy. I really do think so. But certainly if you're selling a car, whoever this may be, they need to do, in my opinion, a little bit better job. And that's going to help them bring the money. It's going to help the seller feel confident, or the buyer feel confident in what they're getting. Let me know what you guys think in the description. Am I off basis here? Am I crazy? Where's the Lincoln emblem, by the way? You got to have that on a Lincoln. Anyways, the hood emblem. Take care, everyone. Peace.